What up, everyone? In this video I want to talk about how our politicians are treating the Canadian forces. Now this is right off the heels of Justin Trudeau removing a tax break to our troops, and I'll get into exactly what that tax break is. That removal of the tax break is. But first, I find it's I find it is rather alarming that Trudeau is removing breaks like this when in the election the Liberal Party ran on a principle of at least maintaining the current level of funding for the forces. If you look on the Liberals campaign website that's still up, that was one of the things they ran on. They were going to maintain a current level of funding, and then there was plenty of rhetoric that actually all parties use about how the military is understaffed, underfunded, under-equipped. All the typical politician talking points when they talk about the Canadian military was all there, and that's another video entirely if we're going to get into the truth or untruths about that. But that still doesn't change the fact that Trudeau kind of went back, and his government kind of went back on that one guarantee. Now, the tax break in question is reported to have affected upwards of 300 soldiers that are stationed at Camp Sarafat in Kuwait. Troops were sent there to help in the fight against ISIS. The tax break offered up to $1,500 and could save roughly around $9,000 over around a 6-month period. So that's something that was taken away. Conservative MPs have jumped all over this, saying essentially Trudeau has removed danger pay. And that is a great argument because removing a tax break to someone who may actually deserve it, like a soldier, who, yes, this is rhetoric all parties use, but who is out there defending us, that's somebody I think that should and does rightfully deserve some kind of help like that. Now, the Liberals have explained that this tax break, or eventually danger pay, as we'll refer to, they don't qualify for the danger pay anymore because the risk level in the area has been dropped. It's been declared that it's not as dangerous as it once was, essentially, so that's why danger pay no longer applies. Now, it needs to be noted that there are reports of personnel still at Camp Arafat that are saying that although that is what the Liberals did, they're wrong. There has really been no change in the risk. It is still just as risky as it was when they first got there, according to the reports I've seen. Of which really have to question, what is going on here? Now, Liberal Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan has mentioned that the Liberals will be looking into reopening the decision, and it could possibly change. Now, that is a good thing if something positive comes from that. Now, what I find most troubling about this is essentially, is this a cost-saving measure the Liberals are going through? And if so, if this is a way of trying to save money, why are we looking at essentially the individual personnel? There has to be other things they can look at to save money. I think this is personally the wrong place to look at cutting costs, especially when you look at what the Conservative record on the military was. Now, to be fair, before we get into their side and their record over the Harper decade, Trudeau doing this is starting to make Harper look a little better. If we're going to go through 4 years, or the military is going to go through 4 years or 10 years of Trudeau making decisions like this, making decisions like what the Canadian government did, it might make the Harper years look ideal. which that's saying something. Now, the Conservatives will constantly talk about how all the good they did for the military and getting them some new equipment, giving them tax breaks, and that's all well and good. I'm not going to argue with them on that. Where I will argue with them is how they treated veterans. When those 9 offices, those 9 Veteran Affairs offices were closed, that caused a noticeable drop in services for veterans. Julian Fantino, he was the minister at the time, his antics when trying to talk to veterans about that was not good at all. It was a PR nightmare. People tend to forget that. Then there's the failure to replace the CF-18. They may have helped get the military better equipment in other areas, but they still failed on replacing the fighter jets. There's a lot of things the Conservatives could have fixed, but they didn't. They still just let sliding. They still just didn't fix. So while I would agree that the Liberals are a lot worse and what Trudeau is doing is a bad sign, it's a bad omen, and it could be a very bad sign of what could come into the future. And those of you in the military, those of us that have friends, relatives in the military, it should be a cause of concern. It very much should. We can't forget that our politicians in general have failed the military. Some have failed at helping them while they're in service, and others have failed at taking care of them when they're out of service, when they're veterans. Both have miserable records. Liberals right now, I would say, are worse. And it could get a lot worse. That space between first and second, like I said, bad omen. Bad sign of things to come. That space between first and second could become further away. And that's what I find troubling. So here's hoping that the people that actually serve our country don't end up having to pay the price and sacrifice benefits, and sacrifice pay, and sacrifice any compensation because of bad governing. Here's hoping. Anyway, I want to thank you for watching this video. Please share it. Comment if you agree, disagree, you think I'm nuts, whatever. Leave a comment. Let's continue the conversation. Please consider subscribing, like the video, whatever. Thank you for watching. Have yourself a good day, and until next time.